Okay, want to take a look at the how we're doing authentication using Cloud Firestore and Flutter. We're using Flutter 2, so it's all upgraded to null safety. And I'm also using the provider package provided by Remy. Actually, you're using Riverpod, which is more or less the rewrite or the 2.0 version of provider anyway. And as you can see, this is the basic widget which loads my app, and I've attached a ChangeNotifierProvider, which basically kind of watches if I'm authenticated or not. And when I'm authenticated, uh, um, this particular widget is being rebuilt automatically, caused by this watch, and then this switch is being re-evaluated, and based on my auth status, I'm either presenting something that is loading or that the user should log in, or my actual user app, which displays my homepage when I'm authenticated. So how does that change notifier provider work? A change notifier is actually something that's built into Flutter. That's not something that Remy with his Riverpod package provides, but the provider is. So this is actually from that, you can see it here. I'm extending the hooks Riverpod. I'm using that here. So let's take a look at what my actual auth service is. My auth service is a change notifier, and a change notifier is basically a class which has the capability of firing events on a change. And the event firing is then handled by executing the notify listeners. So when I'm starting the class, when I'm creating this class, I'm calling this one the instance constructor, and the instance constructor gives me an instance of this change notifier object, and it says, okay, my auth status is currently unknown. Here I've made an enum for that particular status. Is unknown because I don't know if I'm authenticated yet, and my auth user, which is the Firebase user, is not known yet. So I have to make it nullable, which is why the question marks here. Now, when I'm firing or when I'm constructing the class, I'm also assigning a listener to the Firebase authorization handler, saying, okay, when there's an auth state change, I want to make sure to listen on it. And when I have a user, so when this mechanism fires and supplies a valid user, so the user is not null, then I'm authenticated. And if not, I'm still unauthenticated. But when I'm not, I'm authenticated, and I want to add my device token as well. So to be able to send FCM messages, have Firebase Cloud messages, push notifications to devices, add my token, which is basically this. You make sure that you wait for a token from the Firebase messaging instance, and then you store it. In this case, I'm storing it in my Firestore instance on my user object. I have separate user objects in Firestore. Now, this mechanism says, okay, so this is basically just a listener. It doesn't do anything. So when I'm creating this auth service class, this change notifier, it just keeps listening for a state change on my authentication. So this provider, the only thing it does is giving me a watcher so that I can automatically rebuild widgets. So the change notifier is taking care of listening to the actual authentication, and the provider is giving me a way to automatically rebuild the widget so that this mechanism works. Because if something changes, the notify listener is called within the auth service. We've seen that. That makes sure that this widget is being rebuilt and that this switch is being re-evaluated. So there's a lot of jumps back and forth in the code, and we're just trying to make sure that you understand what happens when. Now, if we're taking a look at the login page, let me go to the login page. Now, the login page is also watching this same. So this is basically the exact same watcher that I've defined in my main. You see exactly the same, because I'm watching it here, so I can rebuild the widget, but I also want to be able to rebuild this login widget based on the state. And well, you have your login screen. I'm not going to show the actual UI. I'm not really a UI guy anyway. But the most important one is that this is the login button, and the login button basically does this, the sign in. And the sign in function supplies, as we've seen here, if I switch to the auth service itself, the sign in requires my email, my password, and does a sign in. Now this one, at first it says, okay, I'm authenticating, so I'm notifying the listeners. That makes sure that this widget is being rebuilt because I'm watching it here. And when it's being rebuilt, it says when it's authenticating, display a progress indicator. So when I click the login button, the authenticating status becomes active, the listener's notified, this widget is being rebuilt, and so this progress indicator is then being shown, meaning that the login process is going. All right, now also based on the login, but it says the sign in here. Now the sign in, go back to my sign in function here, the sign in function. It does a sign in with email password. This one, when okay, so when it's not caught by this try catch mechanism, when okay, it fires the auth state change listener that I've created on this class. And that in tandem fires the login page that is being rebuilt. It doesn't need to do anything different, but this one is also being rebuilt because the state is changing and now it's authenticated. And I can return my user app. So you don't have to do any navigation or lookups. You just have, it's pretty simple actually. You just do an event listener. The key here is this listener on the change of the authentication event, and then also from the Riverpod package, the ChangeNotifierProvider, which allows you to automatically rebuild your widget without having to use stateful widgets. So you see that this isn't a stateful widget; they are consumer widgets, and consumer widgets is also provided by the Riverpod package. Consumer widgets allows me to watch a ChangeNotifierProvider here as well. This is a consumer widget. Consumer widget is basically a stateless widget, but then with the extent of being able to read or watch a provider. All right, hope you learned something from this video. Thanks for watching.